Welcome back to Non-Niche. This is Raquel, and I'm super excited to share with you another interview for the books. And I'm super amazed that I get to do this every day, and one day it will be more and more, but summer, everybody's booked and busy, so I'm glad we're going into a little bit of the fall so you can actually see more artists, and I'm putting out my work on our Instagram page. But up next we do have Samantha Boyer. She is a wonderful artist. She teaches you about painting, different textures, how to heal through the pieces, and how to create through adversity, as well as just a mindset, because sometimes as artists we can get all up in our head a little bit and it's hard for us to create, and making sure that we validate ourselves is highly important. And she brings a certain light and almost like magic within her work, and I'm super excited to share her story and how she works and what she does with you here. So let's get to the interview, and I'm so excited. Welcome in, and I'm super excited for Samantha to finally be a part of the Non-Niche group. I've been looking at your stuff for a long while, and I was just like, I really want her to be on the show. And I reached out to you because I saw one of your TikToks, because I saw your Instagram and I followed. I'm like, okay, if I see her again, I'm just going to reach out, because I typically don't reach out to people unless I'm led to. And immediately, I kid you not, and I didn't follow you at the time on TikTok at all. Your TikTok just came up on my page, and I didn't say your name out loud, so I know my phone wasn't listening. So I was just like, okay, so it's meant to be. But I just wanted to get to ask you how you started your art journey, because you bring a lot of healing techniques, and then you also teach us about painting the brushes, technical knowledge that I've personally learned in art school. So tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I think I got started like most creatives. I mean, you ask anybody and they got started when they were a kid and they loved arts and crafts, or they got into art or whatever. But by the time I was maybe 10, I was really into it. I would watch, not many people have heard of Donna Dewberry, and I would watch her on PBS.
Yeah.
And she has this, have you heard of her?
Yeah. PBS
is
my favorite channel.
Yes. She's so calming, but she has her set of brushes and she teaches you how to use each one. And so I learned a lot of basic skills from her, and I got her little, she had these plastic sheets.
Mm-hmm.
You know how kindergartners can trace their alphabet? The sheets were the same way. You could get paint on your brush and trace the strokes, and then wipe it all off and then try again. And so I was 10 years old doing her little stroke plastic sheets and watching Bob Ross, and my grandma painted and drew, and so I did a little bit with her. And just as I got older, I loved it, and I turned to it as this therapeutic place of peace, and it's just something I've always done.
Yeah, well, I mean, you've done it for years, and then you talk about, art, I personally find as a very strong healing method and technique whenever we're going through something of joy, light, anything. It's just, it's like the energetic with material, and you bring something out of nothing to life, and I truly find that amazing. And, and that's why I personally feel if AI is taking over the art world, I'm well, let's charge up the human experience.
Mm-hmm.
If we can, mass produce something in milliseconds, a human made this, so now it's more valuable. So that's my 2 cents on that.
I agree.
I was watching one of your Instagram shorts, and I was thinking that how you talked about how artists deal with anxiety, and talk about how to break through that. And it was one I wrote down. It was basically the concept of telling your story. I was watching that, and tell me a little bit more about that motto. I completely love it.
Yeah. When I was younger, I sang. I still love to sing, but I would sing in in church meetings and things like that, I would do these solos, and I hated them. I got so nervous and sick to my stomach, and for like the week before I had to sing, it like ruined my week. And my mom, she would play for me. She was my pianist,
Mm-hmm.
and she would always say, "Just tell the story. We've practiced enough times. You know all of the notes. Just tell the story. Like it doesn't even matter if you hit the notes, as long as the audience feels the story that you're telling. What else matters, right? It's about the experience of it, like of experiencing the music." And so I've taken that same approach with my artwork. It doesn't. You're right. I do teach a lot of the technical skill and tips here and there, but at the end of the day, I hope that I emphasize enough that it's about the process of creating and the emotion that we can put into the artwork, and not necessarily the skill set or how perfect the painting ends up.
Yeah, and you definitely do, like, very effortlessly. And you were talking about how, we were, Einstein, anything you do, like the same thing over and over again, it's a definition of insanity. But you turned it into a therapeutic, and it was just very interesting. I never seen that. It's you turn it into a therapeutic art technique where
Mm-hmm.
you can paint the leaves or whatever you're doing over and over again just to calm the mind,
Right.
to change the narrative of what's insanity and what's also peace and healing. So I commend you on that. So I just want to say thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
And I was just like, it's, we don't really talk about how we become artists, or how the process works, because we're in like the artist kind of tunnel vision way when we're creating. We have our music, we have like our beverage or whatever, if you drink or whatnot. I know a lot of people, I personally drink tea like when I'm creating something.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to know, like, different art inspirations, or who you find inspiring to work with, or who you kind of look at.
Yeah, I already mentioned Donna Dewberry, and everybody loves Bob Ross. But outside of those, like the artists that I grew up learning from, I honestly don't. It's not that I don't follow other artists. I have a lot of mutuals, but I try to stay in my own zone. I think the art community, we overlap a lot. So
Yeah.
you can always find another artist that's basically painting the same thing that you are. Your paintings look the same. As far as like the whole copyright topic, we're all just stealing each other's art in little tiny bits and putting it together and reworking the system.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think maybe more than like specific artists, I really like looser brush stroke styles.
Okay.
I have a problem just leaving it loose. I always want to add one more little detail here or there, and so I'm always really impressed when somebody can just create a very simple, minimalistic, loose painting. I just think they're beautiful, and I struggle with them, so they're that much more impressive to me.
I like how you mentioned how artists overlap, and that's with like photography, like
Mhm.
anything, especially right now. A lot of creativity is starting to look the same.
Mhm.
And I find a lot of people are having like an identity crisis, because like you do find people that find inspiration from, but also it's important to find inspiration within yourself. Because remember, like, yes, you may do it, but you do it your own way. Like, nobody's you. And
Mhm.
you also do that effortlessly. And I think sometimes, with social media, which is great because you can get your art out there, it's just that other people also have done like 15 or even 1,000 renditions of it. And then that kind of becomes a little bit defeating. And you're just like, you don't want to get looped into that. It's just like, no, that's great, and they did a good job. And like, if it's like a huge contrast, that's awesome. But when it looks very similar, like, I did that too.
Right.
And it's
Right.
just a natural reaction. And no, and I find that to be a very interesting concept. And I feel like that's also what makes you different. I don't see a lot of the people that I've seen like on my Instagram feed or even TikTok. It's just how you break certain things down. Like, you give knowledge, but also like we leave something internal. Like, you give a piece of yourself very effortlessly and peacefully, um, to the audience. and I wonder, like, is any of it scripted, or you just, it pops in your mind and you make the video? Because some people are scripted and some people aren't. So how does that typically work with you?
Yeah. Mine's a little bit of both. I've tried the whole like script it all out and spend a day batching content, and it does not work for me. That makes me feel so burned out and drained. But I have a whole list of thoughts that I want to share. So I'll be laying in bed at 2 o'clock in the morning and like pull out my phone and add to my list of thoughts whenever they hit me. And so I just go through my list of thoughts and choose one that either goes with a painting or create a painting based on that thought and then share it that way.
I like it because I also struggle with um, doing the batch scripted thing, which I don't mind. Like a theater kid, I can read a script, but when I want to put a message out, I want it to be authentic. I can't write it down. It's just like if I feel it in that moment, I'll be
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, this is kind of like the general idea that I want to say.
Yeah.
Or I'll just literally take my camera out and I'll just say it and I'll be done with it. My poor cat, it's just like, what is she doing? She's all over the house. And like, you just got to go with it. You're led to. And I would want to ask, what is your best advice in the theory of, how social media is and where it's going, and being a different type of creator and creative to stand out on your own? Because we already kind of talked about it's just like, don't look at anybody else's lane, but stay in your own lane.
Mm-hmm.
But what is your best advice on that?
I think that that's different for everyone. My when when I create, I can't. So when I first got into content creation, I was just trying to study how to grow an audience, right? And there's always trends to follow, and I did a few of them at the very start, and I haven't been able to get back into the trends because that's the part that feels draining for me.
Yeah.
There's no creativity or inspiration in that for me because you're taking something, you're just following the template, plug and play. And I've kind of suffered a bit because of it, because if you don't ever throw in any trending sounds or any trends, it's harder to grow, I think. The algorithm naturally pushes that type of content and people interact with it for a reason. But I've tried to stay away from it because it makes me feel drained. And then I'm like, what am I doing? I wanted to create art and I'm just copying a trend. And so I think for everybody, the system is it's just different for everyone to find the path that you want to go in that route with content creation. And different platforms work different for different people. And so I think it's just an individual decision.
Yeah, and I think that is truly something I personally battle with, because I may not want a certain sound on my video when it's talking about emotion, and I'm like, okay, well, if I use this sound, maybe people will see it. And I just kind of stopped doing that because I'm just like, I just want to pick the sound that I like. And if people like it, great. If people don't, then they can scroll along.
Yeah.
And I find that kind of messing with a little bit of the psyche of the artist, because you try to work on like self-validation and trying to make sure like you still validate yourself without trying to seek validation from others or consumers or anything like that, because people are going to love your work regardless. You will always find your community. And I think sometimes social media has a tendency, it may or may not, I'm trying to be open-minded about it, but it may or may not know it's doing that, calling a little bit of a divide. But it's the individuality and the authenticity of the artist that vibrates out to the audience that it belongs to. It doesn't
Mm-hmm.
need like a trending sound. It doesn't need to look like everything else. And then one thing you talk about, it doesn't need to be perfect. You just got to do it. You
Yeah.
just got to do it. And I think that's one of the things with painting. It doesn't have to be perfect because it's still art. And art has so many different meanings and mediums for a reason, because it doesn't have to be perfect. It could be I mentioned one time there was an art piece and I was talking about like different perspectives. And I said, as an individual, we hold one perspective, but if everybody's looking at the same thing from all different backgrounds, different thought processes of that one thing, so many different perspectives. And like, I just wish we would be open to hear it instead of just being stuck on just like that one that probably has a lot of likes, views, whatever. And I'm just like, we're meant to see and hear different perspectives for a reason. And we're meant to see art in a different way. It brings the conversation. And that's originally how it starts. Like if you think about Van Gogh, he used it as, you know, therapy for one. And then also now we still talk about his work and it brings about conversation, discussion. And there's many books about it. There's many books about multiple artists, but that was the last one I read about. It was like artists, it was like letters to his brother. If you haven't read that, it was really good. But what is, I guess, your favorite platform, I guess? Like, would it be Instagram, TikTok? I don't know if you do like Lemonade. There's tons of them. I really can't keep up, so.
Right? There are so many. I think it's kind of changed over time. I initially really wanted to get into YouTube, and I did.
Yeah.
And I didn't do well. My videos, they were okay, but they're not, it wasn't going like I wanted it to, and the other platforms were kind of growing a little bit easier, and so I shifted my focus back to those. But more recently, I went back and watched some of my earlier YouTube videos, and I was like, these are cringy. I want to delete them all. They're not good. I've grown so much. Like my editing skills are so much better, my art skills.
Yeah.
And so but there's still that passion inside of me to do the YouTube. I really love the longer format where you can really connect with your audience and it's not just a 15-second hurry and try and keep their attention. And so I've shifted back into that YouTube space, and I'm really excited to release some newer, fresher videos and start to really focus in on that platform and grow it a little bit more, because I think that's where my heart has been the whole time, is doing those longer videos. But it's a tougher platform to figure out than some of the shorter form. I mean, you can make 15-second videos and learn a lot, but it takes a lot longer to make one full YouTube video, and so the learning curve is a little bit harder for me.
No, I totally understand. And I recently tried like not niches on YouTube, and it's typically 30 minutes to an hour just having conversation, you know, with like the artist or author, whomever that I've interviewed. And I take snippets of that and try to post it like on Instagram, and it gets like more traction on there, but I try to lead it back to YouTube so people can actually have time, because like I want it to be a show. And sometimes I don't see a lot of talk shows or any basically speaking about different minds and mindsets that are not famous. And one thing that I've always taught as a young kid, like talk to the person next to you. You never know what type of wisdom they have. You know, nobody's above or below anybody. Like everybody has their own wisdom, everybody has their own talent, but you would never know because you're looking up at, you know, how many followers that person has or how many movies they've been in. You know, not to negate anybody's talent or, you know, accomplishment, but it's also nice to look to the person on the same lane or a little bit above you or just like right next to you. Just say like, hey, how's your day? I remember I was walking out of the store and I held the door for this lovely lady, and she looked at me like I just was Santa Claus because I held the door for her. I'm like, do people not hold doors for people? Like, what are they too focused on their phones? Like, what's happening? And I just started talking to her. I was just like, well, how's your day? And she's like, oh, it was good, because I was helping her to her car. And she was just like, oh, she gave me this knowledge where she's just like, you don't feel the way you look. And she was probably like 85. And she was talking about how, cherishing the moments and, just because she looks a certain way, her mind's like 36. Like, she's like, my best year was 36, so I'm going to say that I'm 36. But I appreciate the length of age that I have because I'm here longer on the earth to, enjoy my grandbabies and my family and my animals. And I would have never known if I never held the door for her. So I honestly think that it's really important because it shouldn't be hard to find the audience. It shouldn't be hard to create something and, unfortunately monetize it because I mean money will be helpful. Uh, we got to pay the bills of life. But no,
Hmm.
I really think what you're doing is wonderful. And I was wondering if you ever been in an art gallery or anything like that.
I haven't. When I first branched out into art as a business,
Hmm.
I looked into that route. I guess there's different styles of art, right? There's the more online art, and then there is the more corporate, prestigious, enter the galleries and be a mysterious artist. I mean, and then there's overlap, of course, but I decided at the end of the day that it's more important to me to see my artwork in someone's home or on their wall than on a gallery wall. And so I've shifted I've never applied for galleries or gone that route just because I'd rather spend my time focusing on individuals rather than galleries and companies. And if that route happens naturally one day, then fabulous. There's a place for it in the art world. But it's very meaningful to me to know that somebody has a piece of my artwork on their wall that they see every day in their home.
Yeah, and it's kind of more intimate too.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like I love galleries, like museums are my favorite, but also there's like a different type of connection where like I have this huge art piece behind me, and I went to a fan expo, and that's like where you get like all kind of like comics, different actors and stuff, and you find local vendors of artists, and that's mainly why I go. It shouldn't be, but that's mainly why I go and I get all their cards. But I always try to buy like a piece of art because I know how hard it is, one, to pay for the booth to get there, and then
Mm-hmm.
also sell like your big pieces. And I always try to go on the first day or last day, but to have pieces at home from what somebody else has created, it kind of makes you feel like a warm hug.
Mm-hmm.
And I try and I try to like explain that to somebody else. They're like, a warm hug. I'm like, it's a little bit more intimate. It's just like somebody created this, and now I can honor it every day that I get up. If I walk through the hallway or when I wake up, and it's like by my bed or wherever it is. Like this is by my desk, and I get all the creative and juices because art carries the vibration of an energy, and it's a creative energy, and you want to place it in your
Mm-hmm.
home so it can have the same vibration. So I truly love that completely. So I definitely
Mm-hmm.
understand. But
Yeah, I always say it's like, and this is the darker side of it, but I always say it's like a Horcrux, only like the lighter side of a Horcrux. Like you put your soul into
you
that, and
do.
when somebody sees it or has it on their wall, Harry would wear the locket, right? And then like
Yeah.
kind of take on the personality or feeling of Voldemort. It's that same way. Like you see the artwork on your wall and you connect with the artist on a certain level and you feel the energy that they put into it.
Hmm.
I love it.
Yeah, and I'm glad that I'm loving all your references, by the way. I'm like, this is a cool person. And but I do want to say congrats on your launch for your prints because I know they took a long time and trying to find the right ink and paper. So walk me through that whole process.
Yeah, it's been a long time coming. That's another one of those routes where you open an art business and there's lots of different ways to go about it. And initially, I had outsourced my prints, and so the price was higher. I didn't have my fingers on every single page. I didn't get to quality control anything. And so I had that option open for a few months, and then a year or so ago, I closed it and just haven't had anything for sale. And so I've been kind of troubleshooting behind the scenes to figure out how can I, because if that's my focus, is keeping that emotion and that energy in the painting, it's important that the prints hold that as well. And so it was important to me at some point that I stop outsourcing and that I do it myself and I oversee the whole process. And so I finally worked through all of the kinks and got it up and running.
Yeah, and I used to print for when I was in college for different artists. I know the ink process. and the trial and error that comes with it,
Mm-hmm.
depending on like how contrasty the colors are, or like if they had to show texture, make sure like that scanner's
Yeah.
gonna pick up. I know that struggle,
Yeah.
and I feel like people don't realize it. And I saw one lady that's just like, well, if I can make this print, why is it like $40-$50? I'm like, you don't know how much that ink costs. A lot of these artists are printing at home and they're buying the
Mm-hmm.
ink themselves, and that stuff is expensive.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be, but it's expensive. But it's worth the money, because honestly, the ink is gorgeous. And once the final product is literally like you just kind of copy paste the painting on like
Uh-huh.
canvas, and or the paper, and the paper is expensive too, because if it's like textured or matte, and you're just like just want to make sure you hold the color, and like you try to do the smear tests and stuff like that and make sure it still picks up and holds it together for like any shipping or traveling. I love the print room and screen printing with all my heart, and it taught me patience.
Uh-huh. Patience.
It definitely taught me patience. But
Yeah.
no, I was looking at your website, and whenever I post this on YouTube, I'm gonna have like all your links and handles and stuff like that,
Yeah.
so people can refer that to your website. Because I just also, this is why I wore my green cardigan, because that's been like the thing that I've seen, and I'm like, oh my god, I love that green. So I wanted to wear it.
I'll have to watch this back and see your green
I
cardigan
know,
since you're so
I keep on forgetting that you can't see me.
I'll see you
Like,
later.
I was like, oh no. But no, I truly appreciate you like coming on and talking about the artist project. And you shared your vulnerability on your page, and you have it pinned. And I was looking at all the things that you were going through about like healing, and more on the medical side as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I did a project called Art Heals, and I know a lot of people are just like, yeah, but it really is healing. I remember working at a senior citizens home, and I always hosted like art classes, and it was just like 15 minutes. And you can see the difference of when they came in the room and then when they left. And they always say like, oh well, I feel so good like after the class, because you kind of get them moving. You kind of like it takes the brain away from the pain, and you can
Mm-hmm.
just like release it on the canvas, and just like do what you will. There's no rules. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's what's really beautiful, and how you've done that even on your Instagram and your TikTok. It's just like you've given so much authenticity, and then also like healing towards teaching everybody at like what type of brushes, and how to clean your brushes. I know that's very important. And then also I was watching one of your videos about how to like tighten up your canvas, and I truly appreciate that, because that is also healing for you. But I just want you to know that people see your stuff. Like I said, that I'm forever the artist that is seen but not liked. Like on social media, and because like I rarely get like any likes on my stuff, but I don't care, because I like what I'm putting out, and I want people to realize like, as long as you like what you're putting out, who cares? Who really
Mm-hmm.
cares? But you get like a
Yeah.
ton of views because it's good. It's just like at the time they just don't like it. They're just like, moving on. But no, I'm like, I just want to say that I see you. I love what you do, and I'm so glad that you can't see me. I'm so sorry. I keep on forgetting that. We're gonna fix that. I don't know what's going on,
Okay.
but no, but I see you, and I see what you're doing, and I think you have created a movement, which you probably don't even realize, but you've helped so many people, and I'm
Thank you.
sure if people would have got the guff to actually say like, hey, thank you for sharing these techniques or whatever. Oh, thanks for the heart. you know um, People really appreciate you, and I just want to say that you're appreciated, and your work is being seen, and you know you're changing so many hearts, and you're making other artists want to be better at artistry or painting, and going out there creating some cool stuff. I mean, I know your page is about to blow up with fall. I can tell you that. Like, it was bringing back, what's that one movie, Mystical with Sandra Bullock? Practical Magic.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
So it's just like, it was definitely giving me that type of vibe, and I
Oh,
love it.
thank you.
Like,
That means a lot.
I was just like, oh, this is a practical magic vibe. I was really trying to calm down on your marketing because I was just like, ooh, if I added candles and a little bit like spooky stuff, I'm like, we're just gonna keep it low. Because I'm like, that's only my brain. I don't know if she intentionally wanted that. So,
No, it is. I've actually switched. When I first started, I was almost a little bit more Christian branding,
mhm.
and I've very much gone away from that. And it's almost a little more like witchy. Like the practical magic is the biggest compliment you could give me.
Aw, you're welcome. And no, and a lot of people, it's just like religion and spirituality and witchy, they're all the same thing. It's just like people like
Hmm.
to label and also monetize off of it. I mean, whatever you believe is great, but we're all trying to heal, we're all trying to create, and we're just co-creators on the universe trying to make it. So you're honestly doing a great job, and I'm so excited that I had you on the show. And if you have any questions or if you want to leave like with any sentiments, please do. I would love to get like a lovely quote from you.
Just thank you for having me. It's an honor, and I appreciate being invited.
No problem. And I one day I'm gonna try to get, as I want to say, like maybe 25 to like 50 and do like reunion, like catch up and see, like, because things happen all the time, and
That would
you
be
know
fun.
and I would love to have you back. So
Of course.
I
I would love it.
I really appreciate it. But thank you so much, Samantha. I really appreciate you and all that you do. And I will send you a clip of our interview since you cannot see me. Oh my
Oh,
goodness. I'm so sorry.
thank you.
But
It's okay.
no problem. And thank you so much for everybody who's joined and send hearts and waves our way. Non-niche is truly what Samantha represents. It's just artists and different creators just being creative and, doing what they love and passing on a message where you can also do it too. And I think that's really important to the world, especially what's going on in it. So thank you for sharing your art with us, Samantha, and your knowledge. And I really appreciate you. And I hope you have a good rest of your day, okay?
Thanks, Raquel. You
All
too.
right. Bye.
Bye.